What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Pokervlog episode 6. Today we're going to be playing at the Gardens Casino, and we're not playing the usual 1-3 or 2-3. We're going to be playing the 5-5. That reason being, their 2-3 is only $200 max, so it's a bit too shallow for us to play. 5-5 is $300 to $600 max, so a little bit deeper, so always good. We've only played 5-5 at this particular casino. 5-5 is pretty good. It's a lot of action. So without further ado, good luck to us in a bigger game, and let's get into the action.
So as soon as I sit down, the player on my right comments that players are just getting younger and younger and says that I have a baby face. I tell him, yeah man, you know how it is. Asian don't raisin. The seat one player adds, how old are you, 18? Did you sneak in here? And I respond, I'm 22 actually. So yeah, what a welcome to the table. I guess I'm the baby here. The first hand we get involved in, I didn't get my new camera stand set up yet. Still working out how to use it, so bear with me. But check out the new angle in the vlog. Anyways, we pick up a premium ace queen offsuit in the small blind. There's an under the gun one open to $20 and 2 callers. With such a premium and cute baby face, I 3-bet large to $120, coming out guns blazing in the first hand we get involved in. And only the under the gun one player calls. Heads up to the flop comes king 9-3, 2 spades. With the range advantage on this king high board, I continue with the bet for $100. And the player thinks about it for a while and eventually makes the fold. We take it down. Easy money. Still haven't got my camera set up yet, and I'm stacking my newly won chips, so it's going to take even more time now. But the very next deal, we pick up pocket 9s on the button. There's a $10 straddle. There's 3 limpers asking me to take their money. So with all this dead money out, I raise it up to $60 with my 9 out of 10 holding. And everybody folds. And we take it down yet again. Seat 1 player comments, dang, this kid is aggressive. And they say, wow, what a good raise. Yeah, this isn't my first time at the casino, guys. They don't know that I've been grinding online tournaments on America's Card Room since quarantine happened and been going to Morongo since 2021, but neither have you guys, so now you know. I've got quite a bit of experience under my young baby face belt. Our stack reaches $700, a profit of $200 in the first 10 minutes of sitting down. We're off to a great start. Okay, so here we are with some actual footage because I finally got my camera set up with my new stand. So here's a new angle for you guys in this hand and the rest of the vlog. Let me know if you like this angle better. Onto the hand, we have pocket 7s in the small blind. We have 2/3 of a jackpot. There's an under the gun 1 straddle to $10, a blind call from under the gun 2, and the low jack comes along as well. Onto me, with some dead money out in the middle, I raise large to $60 with the pair, going with the larger sizing because I'm in the small blind. In the small blind, you should raise larger than normal because you're going to be out of position for the remainder of the hand, so you really don't mind taking down the pot pre-flop. The under the gun 2 blind caller finally decides to check his cards and tells me he needs to see if these are worth another $50. He seems to like them because he makes the call. Everybody else folds, and now it's heads up to the flop, which comes ace king 6 rainbow. Great flop for my range. I have all the ace kings, ace queens, ace jacks, aces, kings, all those strong Broadway hands, so I c-bet $50. And he reveals that he has a king, but he doesn't like the fact that the ace is out there, and he lets his hand go. We scoop in another pot. Let's try to keep the momentum going with another pocket pair, the Mighty Ducks. We have pocket deuces and under the gun 2. The tilted player in under the gun 1 opens to $15. I can tell he's tilted because he keeps slamming the table whenever he looks at his cards and has to fold them, and he keeps groaning and sighing. It's not too hard to spot a tilted player, to be honest. I call, and so does a cutoff, big blind, and button. It goes 5 ways to a flop of queen 10 deuce rainbow. Cha-ching! We flop bottom set. The big blind donks out for $35. Interesting donk. The preflop raiser now re-raises to $80. Well, we know the preflop raiser has a hand he's not letting go of because he was getting so impatient earlier that when you're tilted and you finally make a hand, you're never folding. So I can either raise right now and get more money in, but I think it would look way too strong. So I choose to just flat call, setting the trap, letting the big blind come in as well. The big blind calls, and now it's 3 ways to the turn, which is the ace of spades, bringing in a backdoor flush draw and completing the potential Broadway straight with king jack. The big blind checks to the under the gun 1 player, who goes all in for $110. Well, if he has king jack for the nut straight, then so be it. We have outs to improve to a full house, so we're not going anywhere. I make the call once again, hoping the big blind comes along for the second time, but he sadly folds. Heads up, with no more action, the river comes, the 4 of clubs, total brick. The all-in tilted player proudly shows ace queen for top 2 pair. I show my bottom set, and he looks beyond tilted, with steam bursting out from his ears, and he furiously leaves the table in defeat. I should have told him that the deuces never loses, baby. The action doesn't stop there, because the very next deal, we pick up king queen offsuit in the big blind. There's an under the gun 2 open to $20. The small blind calls, and I can either 3-bet or just call. I've been 3-betting a lot, so I choose to mix it up and just call the early position open, underrepresenting my hand. I'm known as an aggressive youngster at the table, so time to change it up. 3 ways to the flop comes king 7 deuce, rainbow. The small blind checks, and with top pair, I check to the pre-flop raiser as I would do with my entire range. And the pre-flop raiser also checks on this dry flop. When it checks through, I most likely have the best hand. The turn brings in the 5 of diamonds, putting out a backdoor flush draw and putting some straight draws out. Now, the small blind donks out for $60, a large pot size bet. I think he either has 2 pair, like 7-5, or he's bluffing with a straight draw or flush draw because his bet screams, please fold. So I just make the call to give him some rope if he's bluffing and to reevaluate the river. The pre-flop raiser folds, and now it's heads up to the river, which is the queen of diamonds, improving us the top 2 pair, but completing the flush draw. He continues representing a flush and reaches for a stack of chips and bets out for $100. We're never folding top 2 pair here, so I flick in a chip for a snap call, and he says, you're good, and shows 4 high for a missed open-ended straight draw with 4-3. Nice to bring in another pot, and we are on a heater. We obtained some valuable info on our seat 1 player that thinks we snuck in here. A bluffer has been identified. In this next hand, we have king jack offsuit in the big blind, or as I like to call it, jack king off. There's an under the gun straddle to $10. There's 4 callers. So with all this dead money out, I bump it up to $65. No cheap flops here. The under the gun 2 and under the gun 3 players want to defend their $10 investment and make the call. 3 ways to the flop comes king 10-10 rainbow. On this flop, I'm either way ahead or way behind. So I check out of position to disguise my hand and to scan for a 10. It checks around. I feel more confident about my hand after they both check the flop, but still suspicious that someone might be trapping with a 10. Still, 3 ways, the turn is the 7 of clubs. Doesn't really change much unless they had pocket 7s, but they probably would have raised themselves pre-flop if they had pocket 7s, so I feel pretty good about my hand. 9-8 suited improves to open-ended, and that's about it. So with most likely the best hand, I delay c-bet, $80 for value, and only the under the gun 3 player makes the call. Heads up, the river is a total brick, the 3 of hearts. I think about going for value or check calling and letting him bluff with a missed straight draw like 9-8 or queen jack. However, due to his player profile of being an older Caucasian gentleman, they generally tend to be more on the passive side, so he probably won't bluff at too high of a frequency. Therefore, I decide I should just go for thin value myself, and I bet $100 targeting a worse king, and he folds. We take it down. Our stack is at $1,450. We're playing 6-handed now, and we pick up king 9 of spades in the small blind, or as we like to call them, the K9s. The cutoff, which is the seat 1 player, opens to $25, a larger open than usual. I put him on some overcards or ace-x holding. I make the call with my dogs. The big blind folds and it's heads up to a flop of 9-8-3, all clubs. We flop top pair on this monotone board. Being out of position, I check and our opponent checks back. The turn is the 2 of spades. Very harmless card. I know I have the best hand, so I bet out for $25, trying to extract value from ace-4 or ace-5 for a gutter to the wheel and protection against any one club holdings. He seems to have some sort of draw because he makes the call. Off to the river comes the 8 of hearts, pairing the middle card. It doesn't change anything. All the draws missed. If he had an 8, he would have bet the flop, so I know I have the best hand still. I'm just thinking how to get more value from this guy. This is the same player who double barreled against me in the king-queen hand, so he's definitely capable of bluffing. If he has a missed draw, which he most likely does, my best chance of extracting more value is checking it over to him to give him some rope to hang himself. We check, giving him room to bluff. He seems to like tying knots because he checks his cards, then grabs some chips, and fires out for $65. I snap call, and he says, "You got me." We show our canines to him and take down yet another pot. We played this hand to perfection because we're able to identify his playstyle early on in the session. Let's go. In this next hand, we pick up the best hand in poker, in my opinion at least. 9-5 offsuit, the legendary Exodia, and the low jack. We open things up to $15, and only the big blind, which is seat 1, makes the call. Heads up to the flop comes 10-7-3, 2 diamonds. The big blind checks, we see bet 15, and our opponent folds. We win another pot. Nice to pick up some easy pots with the best hand in poker, Exodia. We have Queen Jack of clubs on the button. A beautiful hand to see. Another gun 2 opens to $25. This is the older gentleman when I had King Jack. The low jack calls. Because I think this older gentleman is more on the passive side, which means he's probably tighter when opening from early position, I decide not to 3-bet him, and I just make the call. 3 ways to the flop comes Queen 3 deuce, rainbow. When it checks to me on this dry flop with top pair, I'm trying to get hands like ace king, ace jack, ace 10 to float, so I bet a nice and cheap $20. The pre-flop raiser thinks that's a bargain to see the next card, and only he makes the call. Heads up with the older gentleman now. The turn is the 3 of hearts, bringing in a backdoor flush draw and pairing the middle card. Hands like ace 3 improve to trips, and ace king, ace jack, ace 10 of hearts now have a flush draw. He checks once again, and now I size up to $40, trying to get more value from ace 5 or ace 4 and the hands mentioned earlier. To my surprise, he now check raises to $100. Weird. Does he really have ace 3 suited? I was not expecting this player to be very aggressive, but with only 2 combos of that hand remaining, being ace 3 of diamonds and ace 3 of clubs, and a whole lot of draws he could be bluffing with, I make the call for $60 more to reevaluate a river. Maybe we can boat up with a queen if we ran into a monster like ace 3, but now that I'm thinking about it, he could have pocket kings or aces that he slow played on a flop, and he chose to play in a trappy fashion. Anyways, one more card to come. The river is another board pair, but it's the 2 of hearts completing the flush draw and double pairing the board. Now he slows down and checks. I don't think a worse hand is going to call me now, even if I bet, so I'm happy to check back and get to showdown. He shows pocket jacks. They are no good, sir, and I show my queen jack and we take it down. Our opponent took an interesting line to check raise to see where he's at on the turn. I give this guy more credit, and now I know he's capable of making aggressive moves. Nice to win the pot, and just as important, learning more about our opponents. Alright, in this hand, we're in the big line with none other than Exodia once again. The button, which is a seat 1 player, opens to $25. Let's battle with this player for the 100th time in about the first hour of play. I call, and it's heads up to the flop of Queen 6 Jack, 2 spades. I check out of position, and he basically snap checks back. The turn is the 8 of clubs, introducing 2 flush draws now, and improving us to a double gut shot straight draw. Any 7 or 10 will most likely give us the winner. Because of his snap check, I can smell weakness. So I take a stab for $20. If I had a pair, I would want to bet around this size in order to get value from any draws. So let's bet with our double gutter. He quickly mucks. And once again, we scoop in another small pot against seat 1. We are respectfully owning this guy. Because, gotta respect your elders, right? We're finally back to a full 8-handed table, and we pick up King Jack of Spades on the button. Under the gun 1 opens to $20, under the gun 2 calls, the hijack calls, and now it's on me. It seems like a nice spot to squeeze, but I choose to just flat call instead, going to a flop in position. In hindsight, I really like a 3-bet instead because I would take the range advantage in the hand and narrow down the field. Anyways, the big blind calls because I didn't 3-bet, and now it's 5 ways to a flop of Queen 9-7 rainbow with 1 spade. When it checks to the hijack, which is seat 1, who I've caught bluffing numerous times, he bets out for $55 pretty quickly. It's almost like he's excited to steal the pot. Oh no, this is my pot. So I call with my gutter ball, backdoor flush draw, and overcard. And most importantly, the power of player profiles. Everyone else folds and it's heads up. The turn is the 5 of diamonds. Doesn't change much except that 8-6 gets there for a straight, and when he slows down and checks, it's go time. It's my turn to pull the heist. I bet out for $100, sliding out a full red chip stack, and he quickly releases his cards. Let's go. You can't be stealing pots at my table, son. I mean dad, or uncle, or grandpa. You get the point. I may be young, but I ain't dumb.
You sure about that?
The best way to beat a thief is to give him a taste of his own medicine. Please don't report me to the cops, because I'm straight robbing seat 1 right now. Our stack reaches $1,850. After this hand, Mona gets hungry and we take a 30-minute dinner break to order some food at the food court. We take $30 from our monstrous stack and exchange it for some hot, steaming, delicious pho. As you can see, with my satisfied baby face, the pho's pretty good. After we devour the pho, we return back to the tables. Buckle up your seatbelts because this is the hand of the night. Right after dinner break, we look down at a beautiful Jack 10 of diamonds in the small blind. There's an under the gun 1 straddle to 10, the button opens to $25. I make the call, the big blind calls, and now the straddler folds. 3 ways, the flop comes King 7-5, 2 diamonds. We flop a flush draw and a backdoor straight draw. I check, and the big blind bets out for $35. The button folds, and I make the call, hoping to get some help on the turn. Heads up, the turn is the 6 of clubs. I check once again, and he sizes up to $70. Facing this bet, I think I have 2 options. Folding is out of the question. I can either call, or I can check raise. This 6 of clubs completes a lot of 2-pair combos like 7-6, 6-5 that I could have, and straights like 9-8 or 4-3. I think this is a good card for my range, and bluffing always gives us a good backup plan in case we miss our draw. I'm choosing war, and I check raise to $200 trying to rep a monster. He seems to want to smoke because he calls very quickly. First thought is, oh boy, what am I getting myself into? And second thought is, why the hell did he call so fast? It's either he has a king or a flush draw himself if he calls that fast. People usually call super fast when they're on a draw. For some reason, I think I have bigger diamonds than him if he does in fact also have a diamond flush draw. So still hoping for a diamond to save us. Come on, baby. The river is red, but it's the 4 of hearts. So close to what we needed. Oh my gosh. It's not the diamond we were looking for, but it does put a 4-liner out to the straight. So let's continue the story that we actually have a straight. With just jack high and a dream, I blast out for $400, bringing out 4 big black chips, letting him know we ain't messing around anymore. My heart is racing, and I'm trying my best to not give anything away, trying to stay as robotic and motionless as possible. He's clearly uncomfortable by this large bet and complains about how bad of a river that was. I'm thinking, yes, it's a terrible river. You can't call that. So fold. Just fold. Please fold. He flashes a king and tosses it in the muck. Let's freaking go! We get the biggest bluff of our life through. Our heart is pounding out of our chest while we scoop in the hardest earned pot of the night. Phew! There must have been something in that pho. Maybe the MSG is extra aggressive, who knows. But we are ecstatic to get one of our biggest bluffs through, especially in a bigger game. We feed our belly, and now we continue to feed our stack. All is good. After this pot, our stack breaks the 2K mark. Let's go! Alright, after that huge bluff, our heart is still pounding, but it's settling down now. We have Queen 10 offsuit on the button. I'm only getting 2 limps. There's a hijack open to $15. I make the call, and it goes 4 ways to a flop of Queen 10 5 rainbow. Cha-ching! We flop top 2 pair. When it checks around to me, I bet $20 for value. The only getting 2 player calls, and now it's heads up. The turn is the king of diamonds. There's a backdoor flush draw, and Jack 9 gets there for the straight. He checks, and I can't be afraid of monsters under the bed, and I size up to $60. He makes the fold, and we take it down. In this next hand, we pick up Jack 10 offsuit on the hijack. It folds to us, and we open it up to $15. The cutoff, button, small blind, and big blind make the call. 5 ways to the flop comes 10-4-3, 2 hearts. When it checks to me, I c-bet $30 with my top pair on a draw heavy board. The button makes the call, and now the small blind check raises to $130. I think he has at least 2 pair, most likely a set of 4s or 3s. He could have a flush draw or open ender as a bluff, but I don't think he's that aggressive of a player to be bluffing in this spot. So I fold my 10, and the button also folds his 10. So he probably had 4-3 or a set. This is one of the few hands that we have lost this session. So if our opponent did in fact bluff us this hand with a hand like ace-5 or 6-5 of hearts for a combo draw, those hands are actually ahead of us with 53% equity. If he had a flush draw with an overcard, like any queen high to ace high flush draw, those hands all have about 43% equity. Either way, I'm probably behind. And if I'm not behind, then I'm not that far ahead. Also, with my opponent's line, I wouldn't want to face 2 large bets further down the road. So it's better to give up my $45 now than torch hundreds of dollars on a bluff catcher. Okay, so this hand wasn't recorded because I didn't think anything was going to happen. But it did. So anyways, bear with me here. We have 4-5 offsuit in the small blind. There's an only gun straddle on. Folds all the way to me. I call the extra 5 and limp. The big blind calls the extra 5 and limps, and the straddler checks. Okay, 3-way limp pot. The flop comes ace-6-3, 2 clubs. I check with my open-ended, being out of position. The big blind leads for $35. The straddler folds. I call my open-ender, and now it's heads up to the turn, which is a board pairing 3 of diamonds. I check once again, and he slows down and checks back. The river is the queen of clubs completing the flush draw. This is the same player we bluffed with Jack 10 and diamonds a couple of hands back, so let's try to bluff him again. I lead for $80, trying to get a 6 to fold, repping a flush, and now he goes over the top and rejams for $250. Yep, easy fold for me, and we get out of there. He shows 6-3 offsuit for a full house. So thank God I did not hit my straight on the river, or else I would have doubled him up. Our stack takes another hit, going on a downward momentum. Oh well, can't win them all, right? After getting caught bluffing, we need to turn things around with 10-9 offsuit in the cutoff. We open things up to $20, and only the big blind calls. Heads up to the flop comes ace 9-7, 2 spades. The big blind surprisingly donks into me for $20. Not really sure what he has, but I have middle pair and this is a pretty draw heavy board, so I make the call. The turn is the bink 9 of hearts, cha-ching, we turn trips. Our opponent keeps up the aggression and fires again, but for $50 this time. I put him on a flush draw or an ace. There's no need to slow play with tons of flush draws, straight draws, and an ace out there, so I re-raise to $125, planning to jam the river. He makes the call for an extra $75 after thinking for a moment. In hindsight, I think I could have gone bigger to a full 3x raise to $150, because if you're going to call a 125, you're probably going to call a 150, and it would also set up better for a river jam. Oh well. Anyways, the river is the brick queen of clubs. With the front door flush draw bricking out, he checks it over to me. He has about $350 left, so let's put him to the test. I go all in, trying to get a hero call from an ace, pretending like I missed my flush with my polarizing bet, and he thinks about it for a while and makes the fold. He said he flopped a monster with a suited 7 of spades for a pair plus flush draw. So I did miss a tad bit of extra value on the turn, but I'm not going to lose sleep over a missed $25. I'm just happy we're able to stop the bleeding. In this next hand, we pick up king queen offsuit in the small blind. It folds to us and we open to $25. Only the straddler calls. Heads up to the flop comes king 5-3, 2 clubs. I see bet $20 with top pair this time, and he makes the call on this draw heavy board. The turn is the 5 of spades pairing the middle card. A card much better for the straddler than for me. So I slow down and check, trying to pot control and underrep my hand. He takes the betting lead and fires out for $50. Can't fold to just one bet while there's still a bunch of draws out and worse kings that I'm beating, so I make the call for $50. The river is the bink queen of hearts. Once again, we have top 2 pair with king queen. How this always happens, I have no idea, but I'll take it. We're still losing to a 5 and a bunch of draws missed. So if I bet, he probably isn't calling with a worse hand. But if he bets, I get to keep all his bluffs in and have the chance to get more value from his missed draws. The same strategy I used against our seat 1 bluffer. So I decide to check, planning on calling anything that he throws out. He thinks better of bluffing away, and he says that he gives up and checks back. I show my top 2 pair, and we're good. When he sees my hand, he says,
Good give him.
and good thing I checked to him, giving him some rope to bluff because he didn't have much. That was the only way I could win more money from this hand. And this is the same player that I laid down my top pair of 10s with, Jack 10 a couple of hands earlier, so reconfirms that I made a good fold earlier in the session. The very next deal, we pick up a little upgrade. We have ace king offsuit on the button, big slick. When it folds to us, there's a straddle on again, so I open to $30 this time, 3x the straddle. And once again, only the straddler calls. Heads up to the flop comes queen 7 deuce, 2 clubs. He checks to me, and with the ace of clubs, 2 overcards, and backdoor straight and flush draws, I see bet $25 and he folds. This is typically how you win most of your pots as a poker player. Not each hand is super glamorous and action packed. I wasn't going to put this hand in, but I just wanted to show you the realities of poker. Most of the time, all you need is a c-bet to win the pot. The very next deal, we pick up a little downgrade. We look down at ace queen offsuit in the cutoff. We're picking up some preemies. When it folds to us, we open it up to $20. The small blind thinks we're full of it, and he 3-bets us to $65. This is the same player who we beat with our king queen and didn't bluff the river. I think about 4-betting to $180 to show him that we're the real deal, but I think if he calls or jams the rest of his stack in, I'm in a terrible spot. However, in hindsight, I would have liked a 4-bet better, reapplying the pressure onto our opponent, but hindsight is always 20/20, right? In the moment, I choose to just call the extra 45 in position to navigate a flop. It's heads up to the flop of King Jack Jack Rainbow. Our opponent c-bets $50 like he would do with his entire range, so I have no choice but to call with my gutter to Broadway. The turn is no help. The 6 of clubs. The small blind slows down and checks now, showing signs of weakness. I think this is a good opportunity to take the betting lead, so I take a stab at the pot, betting out $100, hoping he folds. If he calls, I know he has at least a pair, most likely a jack, and I'm going to shut it down for the rest of the hand. He thinks about it and slides a stack of red chips in for a call. That's not good. We need help for sure. Praying for help on the river, more specifically praying for a 10. The river comes. The 5 of hearts, total brick. Half of a 10 isn't good enough. The poker gods couldn't bless us this time. When he checks for a second time, I'm thinking maybe I could put him to the test and put him all in for his remaining 250. But I already told myself we're giving up if he called on the turn, so that's what we do. I give up and check, waving the white flag, thinking he has a king or jack, and he surprisingly shows pocket 9s, and we lose. Man, we should have put him to the test. This pot had our name written all over it, but we just couldn't pull the trigger. Our stack takes a hit to $2,000, and this player gets his revenge on us. What other way to bounce back from a disappointing loss than Exodia on the button? This hand is 2 for 2 for the day, so let's try to make it 3 for 3. We open things up to $20. The small blind and big blind both call. 3 ways to the flop comes ace 7 king, 2 hearts. When it checks to me, I c-bet $30, repping an ace like ace king, ace queen, ace jack, ace 10, and they believe me and they both fold. And one of them says ace king good. Who needs ace king when we got Exodia? I'm really trying to get an interesting Exodia hand for you guys to witness, but my opponents seem to sense Exodia's awesome raw power and keep folding.
Exodia! Obliterate!
Sorry guys, maybe next time. We pick up the boys. Not just any boys, but the cowboys. Pocket kings and under the gun 3. Our first premium pocket pair of the night. Under the gun 1 opens to $15. We're obviously 3-betting and we make it $45 with our premium pair. Only the under the gun 1 player makes the call. Heads up to the flop comes 7-5-4 rainbow. This is a flop that should not connect well at all with my 3-betting range, but at least there's no ace out there. So when he checks, I can either bet really small or I can check back trying to play tricky. I decide to c-bet small to $25 to get some thin value and build the pot. For this cheap of a price, our opponent makes the call. The turn is the 2 of diamonds, bringing in a backdoor flush draw. This card shouldn't change much, and my king should be good basically 9 times out of 10. The only thing that got there is ace 3 suited, but it seems unlikely due to the fact that it's a 3-bet pot. So when he checks for the second time, I size up to $90, trying to represent an ace king or ace queen of diamonds type of hand that's trying to buy the pot right now. He thinks for a while and then makes the call. Not really sure what he has. Maybe he has a hand like 8-7 suited for top pair and a gut shot straight draw, or a middling pocket pair like 6s, 8s, 9s, or 10s. We are getting some pretty nice value in this hand, and when the river comes, the jack of hearts, it's a pretty big brick, all things considered. Don't really think he'll ever have a hand like jack 7 suited here, and if he had a set, he probably would have raised the turn. The flush draw misses, but maybe a hand like ace jack of diamonds gets there on the river to pay us off. I'm really trying to think what could pay us off here. So when he checks for a third time, I look over at his stack. I see that he has about $350 left. And now I'm trying to think of a sizing to bet. I think that all in is a bit too big for a pot of $320. So I don't really think he has that much. So I choose to bet $200 instead for value, trying to get called by a non-believing 7 or middling pocket pair. He ends up making the fold, and we win another pot. The boys didn't disappoint, and they never do. There's no time to relax because the very next deal, we pick up ace-5 of hearts in the low jack. The same player from last hand, but in under the gun 2 now, opens to $20. With ace-5 suited, it's a nice hand to 3-bet, but I feel like if I 3-bet 2 hands in a row, it'll look pretty sus. So I just make the call instead. 4 other players behind me also make the call, and it goes 6 ways to a flop of Jack 5-5 rainbow. Cha-ching! We flop trips with the best kicker in a multi-way pot. When it checks to me, I'm gonna set the trap, and I check, hoping that someone bets for me. Unfortunately, no one takes the bait, and action checks through. Still 6 ways, the turn is the 4 of diamonds, bringing a backdoor flush draw and straight draw, which really connects the board in every way imaginable. So when it checks to me for a second time,
That is it!
That's it. What the fuck you talking about? That's it. Take him down, Danny.
Yet! No more! No, not tonight! This son of bitch all night, it chick.
I can't afford to slow play anymore. I bet for $45, trying to charge any flush draws or straight draws. Miraculously, one by one, each player folds and we can't make any more money in the hand. I have no idea how other 5 players don't have anything to call me with.
Should have paid me off on that. The fuck did you lay that down?
But that's okay, we still win the pot, and with that, we rack it up and end our session. It's nice to run hot in a bigger game.
All right, what a pleasant session for us today. We were pretty aggressive early on and got quite a bit of bluffs through, especially our $400 river bluff with just jack high. So yeah, that was pretty scary. $400 is a big chunk of change. It's larger than my 2-3 buy-in for $300. So to tell you the truth, I was definitely butt clenching the entire time. So just happy it worked out. So this is the only casino where I played 5-5 at. They have a really wide table selection and I absolutely love playing here. The poker room is much larger than Morongo and I think it's very well run. Food's great, atmosphere is great. So if you guys haven't checked out the Gardens Casino, I would 10 out of 10 recommend it. So for our final stats, we were in for $500, out for $21.92 in 3.5 hours. So we had a profit of pretty much $1,700 in under 4 hours. So pretty good hourly if I do say so myself. You guys could do the math. So this was my biggest win on the vlog. I hope you guys liked the jump in stakes. I know my wallet did. I also wanted to apologize to you guys for taking so long to post this vlog. I've been really busy with the holidays, having to travel and visit family, so it's been cutting into my editing time a ton. But if you guys aren't down to wait that long, and I get that, you know, 2 weeks to 3 weeks is a long time to wait for a vlog, make sure to follow us on Instagram. The link is down below. We do post real-time updates on our story. Some sessions don't make it on the vlog, so on Instagram you guys can see all the sessions that we play and keep up with us in real time. So we also got a new mic and new camera stand for a new camera angle, if you guys couldn't tell. So we are getting some upgrades, and speaking of upgrades, if you guys have any suggestions or feedback for us to improve the vlog in any way, shape, or form, please let us know down in the comments. I do go through each and every comment down below, so don't be shy. I hope you guys run as well as I did this session in your future sessions, and that's all I got for you guys. Good luck at the tables. Peace.